The morning sun was soft over Windsor Castle, but inside something heavy filled the air. Princess Catherine sat alone in her sitting room. The room was quiet. Her hands were wrapped around a cup of tea that had already gone cold. The fireplace beside her was still warm, but she didn't feel it. A letter was on the table, not an ordinary one. It was from her doctor. And it had changed everything, Dot. It had started with tiredness. Some pain. Catherine thought maybe she was just overworked. She was used to smiling through exhaustion. She had done it for years, at public events, charity visits, and long royal tours. She had always been strong. But this felt different. William had noticed it too. "You look pale," he had said one evening, gently brushing a hand against her cheek. "Maybe you should get checked." So she did. A quiet appointment. No press. No one else knew. Just a private checkup in a hidden clinic in London. Dot then came. The results. A phone call first, then a letter, and then a face-to-face meeting with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, one of the country's best oncologists. The words were soft but sharp. "Like glass. It's cancer, Your Royal Highness." Catherine didn't speak. She just looked at the doctor. "There is hope," Dr. Mitchell added quickly. "We caught it early, but we must act now. Treatment will be difficult. There will be hard days." Catherine still said nothing. Her mind was racing, but her face stayed calm. She had learned how to hide her feelings in public. But now, even in private, her body went still. William was sitting beside her. His hand found hers. His grip was tight, almost shaking. But he didn't cry. He didn't panic. He just sat there, listening, like a soldier being told of war. But this war was different. This was personal. When they got home that night, the castle was quiet. The children were asleep. The staff had turned down the lights. Everything looked the same. But nothing was the same anymore. They sat on the couch in their private quarters. Catherine looked at William. "What if I don't make it?" she whispered. William shook his head. "You will." "But what if I don't?" William's jaw tightened. "Then we fight anyway." They didn't sleep that night. For the next few days, everything moved fast. Royal doctors, security checks, private medical planning. But to the public, nothing had changed. Catherine still waved to the crowds. William still attended meetings. The newspapers printed happy pictures of them visiting schools and charities. But behind the palace doors, there was fear. Real fear. Catherine kept thinking of her children, George, Charlotte, and little Louis. How do you explain this to them? How do you tell your son, who is second in line to the throne, that his mother might be sick for a long time? That she might not be around to watch him grow up? She cried alone in the shower. She didn't want the children to hear. One evening, she walked into George's room. He was reading a book. He looked up and smiled. "Are you okay, Mummy?" Catherine paused. "I'm just tired, love," she said, kissing his forehead. He nodded, trusting her completely. That trust made her heart ache even more. 3 days after the diagnosis, Catherine stood in her dressing room. Her favorite dresses hung quietly on one side, shoes lined up in neat rows, perfumes untouched on the table. Everything looked normal. But when she looked in the mirror, she saw a different woman. She wasn't just a princess anymore. She was a patient now, a mother with a fight ahead. She touched her stomach and closed her eyes. "I need to be strong," she whispered. For them, William walked in. He didn't say anything. He just hugged her from behind. They stood like that for a long time. Later that night, they called a secret meeting with palace advisors. Only the closest few. They told them the truth. Medical leave would be needed. Plans had to change. Schedules had to be adjusted. But now everything must remain quiet. No press, no leaks. Not until the children knew. Simon Case, the palace's chief advisor, nodded. Understood. We'll protect this with everything we've got. Outside the window, the wind was picking up. The trees in the garden swayed under the moonlight. Inside, Catherine and William sat down with notebooks and calendars, trying to plan a future that had suddenly become unclear. Every step had to be carefully planned. Treatments, side effects, days of rest, public appearances, and most of all, how to keep life normal for their children. We can't stop being parents, Catherine said, even on the hard days. No, William agreed, especially not on the hard days. They both knew the truth. The days ahead would test them like never before. They had handled royal pressure, tabloids, scandals, and even the grief of losing William's mother, Princess Diana. But this was something else, Dot. This was about life and death. Dot, it wasn't about crowns or palaces or duties. Dot, it was about bedtime stories, school pickups, drawing pictures with Charlotte, laughing at Louis's silly jokes, holding George's hand when he got nervous about homework. This was about family. That night, before bed, Catherine knelt by her window. She didn't pray often, but this time she did. Please, she whispered, just let me stay. Let me be here for them. Down the hall, William stood at the children's doors. He listened to their quiet breathing. He closed his eyes and leaned against the wall. Everything they loved was under one roof, and everything they feared was just beginning. It had been 3 weeks since the diagnosis. Princess Catherine woke up before the sun. The room was still dark, but her mind was already racing. The hardest part still waited telling the children. She had practiced the words in her head again and again, but nothing sounded right. How do you tell your babies that you are sick? William stirred beside her. He reached for her hand under the blanket. Is today the day? He asked gently. Catherine nodded. Double quotes yes. We can't wait any longer. The children had started noticing. George had been unusually quiet. Charlotte kept watching her mother with worried eyes. Even Louis had stopped asking silly questions. Something in the house had changed, and the children could feel it. They had called Dr. Alina Rodriguez, a child psychologist who worked with families going through illness. She had met with Catherine and William days earlier and given advice. Be honest, she said, but be kind. Children understand more than we think. Now it was Sunday afternoon, the perfect day. No school, no noise, just the family, together at Adelaide Cottage. Catherine wore a soft cream sweater. William sat beside her, holding a cushion between his hands like a nervous father about to give bad news, which he was. The children came into the drawing room with smiles on their faces, unaware of what was coming. Mummy and I need to talk. To you, William began. George's face changed first. He sat up straight. Charlotte looked between her parents. Her small hand reached for Louis, who was already playing with the buttons on the couch. Catherine took a deep breath. Mummy hasn't been feeling very well, she said softly. I went to see a doctor, and they found something inside me that isn't working right. It's called cancer. Silence. George blinked hard. Charlotte's mouth fell open. Louis frowned. Is it like a fever? No, sweetheart, William said. It's different. The doctors will give Mummy medicine. Some of it might make her tired, or her hair might fall out. But we're doing everything we can to make her better. Charlotte started to cry. But you'll be okay, right? She asked, her voice shaking. Catherine wrapped her arms around her daughter. I'm going to try everything, and I'm going to be here with you every single day I can. George looked straight at his father. Will she die? The question stabbed the air like a knife. William's voice cracked just slightly. We don't know yet, George, but we're staying strong, and we have the best doctors. and love. That helps too. Louis stood up and ran to Catherine. He wrapped his small arms around her. "I'll give you my favorite car," he said. "It makes me feel better when I'm sad." Catherine couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears came silently as she kissed the top of his head. The conversation lasted more than an hour. There were questions, fears, promises. Catherine and William didn't hide anything. But they didn't overwhelm the children either. They explained things slowly, with care and love. They ended with one message: "We are a team. We will face this together." That night, Catherine sat alone in the children's playroom. Toys were scattered everywhere. Paintings hung on the wall some. With her face drawn in crayon, she picked one up. It showed her standing under a rainbow, holding hands with Charlotte. The rainbow had a golden crown on top. Catherine pressed the paper to her chest. "I must live," she whispered. "I have." Teal. The next morning, something shifted. George brought Catherine tea without being asked. Charlotte stayed close, often just sitting beside her mother in silence, sketching little hearts and stars. Louis made up silly songs and danced around the room, trying to make everyone laugh. These small moments became the medicine no doctor could provide. Meanwhile, in the palace, plans were being made quietly. Some of Catherine's royal duties were postponed. Others were moved online. Her team, led by her private secretary, worked around her treatment schedule. Everything was done with care and secrecy. The public still didn't know. She was due for her first chemotherapy session on Tuesday. Catherine spent Monday preparing. She packed a small bag with a book, a warm scarf, and the bracelet George had made out of colored string. It spelled out "Mum" in shaky letters. She looked in the mirror. Her eyes were tired, but her face still held that quiet strength the world loved her for. "I'm ready," she said to herself. William stood in the doorway. "Are you?" He asked. "No," she admitted, "but I'm going anyway." The next morning, the car picked them up before sunrise. No cameras, no flashing lights, just two people facing something no crown could protect them from. The clinic was warm and calm. Soft music played in the background. The nurses greeted Catherine with smiles, not because she was a princess, but because they cared. As the four was set in her arm, William sat beside her. He read from a book. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. When the medicine started flowing, Catherine closed her eyes. She didn't think about castles or duties. She thought about Charlotte's drawing. She thought about Louis's toy car. She thought about George's serious little face, and she knew she had a reason to fight. When it was over, she leaned on William as they walked back to the car. He didn't say much, just held her hand tightly the whole way. That night, when they returned, the children rushed to her. "Mummy, you did it," Charlotte cried. George gave her a hug without a word. Louis placed the toy car beside her teacup and said, "You're my superhero." For the first time in weeks, Catherine smiled with her whole heart. She wasn't just a princess. She was a mother, a fighter, and a light for her family. The world still saw her as perfect, smiling, calm, beautiful as always. The photographs showed her waving to the crowd, dressed in soft pastels and elegant coats. She still stood beside William at charity events and royal visits. But the truth hidden deep behind palace walls was far from perfect. Princess Catherine was in pain. Every few days, she was taken quietly to a private clinic for treatment. She wore sunglasses and scarves to avoid being seen. Sometimes she was too tired to walk without help. William never left her side. Not once, but still, no one outside the family knew the truth. The palace had chosen silence. There was no public statement, no interviews, no news stories, nothing. They were waiting for the right time. for the children to feel ready, for Catherine to feel strong enough, for the world to listen. Inside Windsor Castle, things were changing. The staff became more careful, soft-footed. The kitchen staff prepared light meals. The guards lowered their voices when speaking. Even the cleaners moved more gently. Every person in the royal household knew, but none spoke. It was an unwritten rule now. Protect the princess, but protection could not stop the illness. It could not ease the sickness after chemo, or the days when Catherine couldn't lift her head from the pillow. On those days, William sat beside her in silence. He read to her. He brushed her hair. He held her hand through the nausea and fever. He cried only once, late one night when Catherine had fallen asleep after a painful treatment. William stood at the window. The castle gardens looked peaceful in the moonlight. But inside him there was a storm. "She doesn't deserve this," he whispered. His voice broke. His mother, Diana, had died when he was just 15. And now the woman he loved, his partner, the mother of his children, was sick. Very sick. He had sworn long ago that he would never let history repeat itself. But he was powerless. All he could do was be there. Catherine's days became a mix of treatments, rest, and short moments of joy. She stopped going to large events. Her official calendar shrank. But she still sent handwritten letters to children's hospitals. She still filmed short messages for her charities. Even when she was weak, she cared about others. One day, she asked to visit a children's cancer ward, quietly, no press. Just her and William. The staff at the hospital couldn't believe it. She wants to visit, even during her own treatment? Yes, said Simon Case, the palace official, but no media. This is personal. Catherine walked through the ward, slowly, holding William's arm for support. Her scarf covered most of her thinning hair, but her eyes were bright, focused. She sat with a little girl named Mia, who was just 6 and had lost all her hair. "You look beautiful," Catherine said. Gently. Mia smiled. "You too." No one knew that day how much Catherine had to push herself just to get out of bed. No one knew she vomited quietly in the hospital bathroom afterward. But she said it was worth it. "These children are the real heroes," she whispered to William in the car. Still, the strain on the family was growing. George started waking up at night. He had nightmares about his mother disappearing. Charlotte stopped drawing rainbows. Her drawings became darker clouds, sad faces, shaky hearts. Louis became quiet, sometimes sitting alone in the playroom, holding his mother's scarf like a security blanket. Catherine and William noticed everything. So they did what they always did. They talked, they listened, they held their children closer, and they made a new family rule. One happy thing every day. It could be anything. A walk in the garden, a silly joke, pancakes for dinner, dancing in pajamas. Some days, the happy moment was only 5 minutes long, but it helped. And slowly, something changed. Not the illness, it was still there. Not the fear, it never really left. But the family grew stronger, closer. One evening, William came into the bedroom with a letter. "It's from a woman in Manchester," he said. "She's going through treatment too. She says your silence is giving her strength, because she knows what you must be going through behind the scenes." Catherine read the letter slowly. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I want to speak," she said, "to everyone." William looked at her. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "People are already guessing. There are rumors. I want them to hear it from me. And I want them to know the truth about cancer, about fear, and about hope." The palace team was stunned. "You want to go public?" they asked. "Yes," Catherine said, "but not with glamour. No fancy dress. No palace room. Just me. In the garden. Speaking as a mother, a wife, a woman." And so, They began to prepare. Script was written and rewritten. Each word was chosen with care. The filming was scheduled for a crisp morning in March. William stood just out of the camera frame. His eyes never left her. Catherine stood in the garden of Windsor. No crown. Number. Jewels. Just a soft striped sweater and the strength of someone who had seen the darkest side of life and chose to face it. The camera rolled. She spoke. Calm. Real brave. When it ended, she turned to William. Did I do it right? She asked. He took her hand. You did it perfectly. And with that, the world was about to learn the truth. But the real story, the one behind palace walls, was far more powerful than anything they could imagine. Because this wasn't just about illness. It was about love. And survival. And the quiet strength of a woman who refused to be broken. The video was released on a Friday evening. It was short, simple, just a quiet message filmed in the gardens of Windsor. Princess Catherine stood in a soft striped sweater, no makeup, no crown. Just her, with her hands gently folded and her voice steady. She spoke about her illness, about the shock, the pain, the long silent days. But most of all, she spoke about hope. She thanked the doctors, the nurses, the people who had written letters without even knowing what she was going through. She asked for one thing only: privacy and kindness for herself, for her children, and for her husband. Her eyes glistened when she spoke about George, Charlotte, and Louis. But her voice didn't break. I want them to remember me not for sadness, but for love, she said. By the time the video ended, the internet had already exploded. The world froze. People cried in their kitchens, on trains, in quiet bedrooms. News channels aired the message again and again. Social media was flooded with messages of love, heartbreak, and respect. We stand with Catherine began trending within minutes. World leaders sent prayers. Cancer survivors shared their stories. Doctors and nurses thanked her for being brave enough to speak. But most powerful were the voices of ordinary people. Father from Ireland wrote, "You made my daughter feel brave again." A woman from South Africa said, "Your quiet strength makes me want to live." A little girl in Wales sent a hand-drawn card. "Dear Princess, please don't give up. I believe in you." Inside the palace, Catherine watched in silence. She held the letter from the little girl in her lap. Her hands trembled, but her heart was full. William sat beside her. "You did that," he said. She didn't answer. She just leaned her head on his shoulder and closed her eyes. For the next few days, everything changed. The press became respectful, careful. Reporters spoke gently. Catherine's charities saw a flood of donations. Cancer support groups asked her to be their voice, even in silence. And the children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, walked into school with their heads high. Their friends hugged them. Their teachers smiled. "You are brave," one classmate told George, and he smiled softly, just like his father. But not every day was easy. Some days Catherine could not stand. Her legs gave out. Her hands shook. Her voice went hoarse. The treatments made her dizzy. Her hair had started to fall. Quietly, without warning. One morning, Charlotte found a small handful on Catherine's pillow. She said nothing. She just climbed into bed and held her mother's hand. "Mommy," she whispered, "it's okay. I still see you." That moment broke something in Catherine and rebuilt something stronger. From then on, she stopped wearing scarves around the children. She let them see her just as she was. Not perfect, not royal, just real. One evening, during a thunderstorm, the family sat together in their sitting room. The lights flickered. The wind howled outside. But inside, the fire was warm, and laughter filled the space. Louis was dancing in a superhero cape. George was helping Charlotte with a puzzle. William was making cocoa in the kitchen. Catherine sat in her chair, a blanket over her lap, watching her family. This, she thought, is what matters. Not titles, not cameras, not even time, just this. That night, as they put the children to bed, Catherine said something to William she had never said before. "If I don't make it," she said, "promise me something." William froze. "Don't." He whispered, "Don't say that." But she reached for his hand. "Promise me," she said softly. "You'll raise them to be kind, brave, honest, not royal, not perfect, just good." William nodded, holding back tears. "I promise." And then she smiled. "Then I can rest." But she didn't rest yet, in the weeks that followed. She appeared again, just once, It is at a small children's hospital, no press. Just a visit. She sat with a teenage girl named Lily, who was losing her fight with cancer. "I'm scared." Lily said. Catherine took her hand. "So am I," she said honestly. "But being scared means you're still fighting." Lily smiled through tears. "You're my hero," she whispered. When Catherine returned to Windsor, she told William, "That's why I'm still here. That's why I fight." The days turned into months. The treatments continued. Some days were better, some were worse. But Catherine never gave up. She kept journals. She wrote letters to her children, one for every birthday. For every important moment she might not see. She planted trees in the garden for each child. She recorded bedtime stories. In case her voice one day faded, she wrote one last note to William, but she never showed it to him. She tucked it into his drawer, tied with a ribbon. Only when you need it. The outside read. And then one morning, as spring returned to Windsor, something changed. The doctor came in after a scan. His face was serious, but behind his eyes, a flicker of hope. "Improvement," he said. "It's working." William sat down. His knees gave out. Catherine blinked in disbelief. "You mean I have more time?" "Yes," the doctor smiled. "More time." She didn't cry. She just whispered, "Thank you," and closed her eyes. And in that quiet moment, a new chapter began. Not a farewell. Not yet, but a reminder that grace is not just about smiling through pain. It's about living with love. Fighting in silence. In teaching the world that even a princess can break and still rise.